situation.
All right, welcome to episode 19 of Soccer Situations. I'm Todd.
Alex.
Yes, this week Alex and I went slumming in the championship, and we stumbled across some instant classics. We're going to talk anti-Brighton conspiracy theories this week.
Yes.
And before all of that, we have to react to the game we just watched, which was Liverpool 2, Arsenal 2.
Yeah, I guess we have to talk about that first. It's too fresh in the minds.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of a unique atmosphere that we're recording the podcast in a little bit of tension today.
Yeah, right? It's
It's
a different feel.
Yeah. Over the past decades, literally, there have been very few instances of truly high-stakes games between our teams.
It's true.
We've kind of been relevant in competitions at different times.
Yep.
And, yeah, we've always been able to maintain a pretty easy diplomacy because of that.
It's true.
Even
It's
if, as well as anybody, I get hot-tempered during a game and I can scream at goals. But usually as soon as it's over, I blow it off. But you have reason to really stew a little bit today.
Yeah. Today's the first time in a while that this has really meant something for us. So yeah, like you said, it always feels you're always going to have the anger and the tension and during the game.
Of course.
But yeah, usually it dissipates a lot easier than it does today.
Right. For instance, an example from this game today, I was so mad about that first goal because I thought Robertson had bundled it in, and I was just yelling, "Trash! That was trash! Trash!" You should yell, and then of course the replay showed it was actually a very fine finish by Martinelli.
Yeah, Martinelli actually got the touch just before he kicked it away.
And just like that, poof, my anger was gone. I'm such a healthy, balanced person.
Yeah. Yeah, overflowing emotions over a football match will happen.
Yeah, we literally did just finish this game, so we didn't have a chance to lay out much of an agenda.
Yeah.
To reduce the game completely to basics, you could say it was a game of two halves.
Absolutely, yeah. Arsenal controlling the first half looks, for the first time I think ever, I feel like it felt comfortable at Anfield briefly. But then, you knew Liverpool was always going to be trouble. They always could score at any moment, and I think that Granit Xhaka incident winding up the crowd and getting everything going, because Liverpool had chances. It's not like you didn't have chances to score already.
Right. Yeah. I was being a little cocky about it, but joking earlier that when they showed the halftime stats, we actually did have more shots on goal than Arsenal did. It definitely didn't feel that way though in the first half.
Yeah, no, you had clear-cut chances. You probably had the better clear-cut chances a couple of times, really good clear-cut chances. But I think that Xhaka incident putting the momentum in the crowd and getting the crowd on your side again.
Yeah.
And suddenly things started to turn, and then that goal is just, you could see the momentum switch pretty heavily when you scored that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Xhaka incident was unnecessary.
It was just weird. Considering how he's been all year.
But Arsenal were kind of frustrating me anyway in that half. They were time wasting from early on, which I was also furious about. Which it wasn't egregious, but more to the point, it was a departure from the Arsenal we've seen all year.
Yeah.
It was kind of obvious, even while you were winning, that you weren't necessarily playing with the same mentality you have all season. We kind of joked about whether or not Anfield did end up getting into Mikel's head, because it had shades of Netherlands in South Africa in 2010.
Yeah.
It's like, that team is so much better, and they're playing kind of an uglier game intentionally than they should be. That's over the top, but
yeah, but it was easily going to win it.
Nothing's easy this year, Alex.
We had one chance. I think there was one extra really good chance. Tierney had a shot. And then Martinelli, it looked like basically a 3-on-1 or 3-on-2.
Yeah, that break could have.
Martinelli just overhit the pass.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it seemed like it was just one-way traffic and a lot of nervy defending from Arsenal.
Yeah, we were pretty dominant in that second half. We had, you didn't respond when I said I think we could have scored 5 goals that game. You didn't think that was funny? But really, we scored 2. We missed the penalty. Ramsdale made that world-class save from Salah, and then the one from Konate. Yeah, so really, quite easily, Liverpool could have had 5 on the board in a game which, I think a lot of people are probably saying right now we were lucky to get a point out of. There's a weird narrative in this game.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot of weird narratives around this game.
Yeah, not even considering the fact that a linesman apparently elbowed Andy Robertson in the face.
Yeah, at halftime, which is also a most insane thing.
I took a quick peek at BBC, and Roy Keane is saying that Andy Robertson's going to be in trouble there. He was seeming to think that Andy Robertson attacked the ref first. So I don't know if that's just Roy being insane or if we missed something, but...
Yeah, from the replays we were shown, it was only him talking to the ref and then getting the elbow in the jaw.
Yeah, he definitely was doing some chirping. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time, though.
Right.
You can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah. What other incidents drew your eye in that game?
Man, it's funny coming off of such high tense drama. I'm like, what else happened in that game?
Yeah, I honestly hate reacting to a game right after because I get so wound up that you forget half of the things that happened.
It's hard to do. But yeah, I think Arsenal are lucky and happy, very happy to get out of there with the point. I think the context of it is obviously different, but makes it feel a little different. But I think that's a good point. The one thing I'll say is Ramsdale's post-match made me feel a little better about the whole thing because he seemed like he was smiling a little bit and you would worry that this would be like a doom and gloom kind of. This could be the end of the title chase because they let it get in their heads.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that dramatic.
Yeah, no, it seemed like they were, in good spirits mostly. Obviously, it's painful to throw it away like that, but
right.
Yeah, we always knew it was going to be hard. And Liverpool, obviously, once Thiago came on, I feel like that completely changed it in the midfield as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Much more solidity and
I've been waiting for that return for what feels like months.
Yeah.
I actually don't even remember how long he's been out, but it has felt like a long time, and you see why. I was maybe being a little harsh on Curtis Jones every time he lost possession.
Yeah.
But facts is that kid's not Thiago.
No.
And I think his problem today is that he was trying to be.
Yeah, he was. He was trying to do too much. He seemed really excited for the occasion, a little too much.
Yeah.
Trying to take players on when he probably shouldn't have.
Exactly. He dribbled himself into a lot of trouble today. Not a bad player by any means, and I do feel bad. I was yelling at him a little bit too much probably, but he was just too careless in possession, trying to do too much.
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously that change is it's a pretty obvious change, but a super smart change and one that Klopp, I'm sure, is so thrilled to have at the option to finally do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Mikel just didn't. That's where I feel like the Anfield got to him. Was his substitutions were confusing.
Right.
I obviously throwing a center back on is a very basic role. Roll of the dice for a team holding on to a lead, but right. I feel like that's so. Based on what we've seen from him this year with decision making, that's so short-sighted and not there's no vision behind that. You're just throwing a defender on and holding on for dear life. It's
really, really
get a foothold back in this game.
It was reactionary, definitely.
I think Vieira could have come on. I think we needed to get a foothold in midfield again, and it just wasn't happening.
Right. I wonder if it confused Mikel. He had to react to a pretty unique Liverpool 11 that he probably hadn't planned for because we were chasing the game. We had 4 strikers on, I think, when he made those changes.
Yeah.
So, assuming that he has set plans and plays responding to probably predictable Liverpool formations and lineups, he might have had to improv on the fly there.
Yeah.
He's like, God, they have 4 strikers now. What am I going to do? They're blitzing us right now. Yeah. So it's understandable, considering he's such a young manager.
Yeah.
In his first title chase, the stadium, everything, all of the circumstances combined, and he had to think on the fly. I don't think he got it right, but I don't think it's time for panic stations for Arsenal either.
No, I don't think so at all. Like I said, that's one obviously it hurts because you were 2-0 up mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think like you said, he got it wrong. I don't think it says anything about him as a manager as a whole that he got it wrong on the day, and I think he'll just learn from it and move on.
Won't you feel better about this title anyway if you just play City at the end, late in the season, and whoop their asses to secure it?
I mean, honestly, yeah. If it if we had to lose this game at Anfield even to win at the Etihad to win the title would be so much more satisfying than winning in any other way, really.
For sure. I mean, just it coming down to the last day, obviously you want it secured as a fan so you can relax a little bit. But is there anything? I mean, you winning it on the last day is the most exciting way to do it.
And as a fan too, it is like it's the best way for everybody for it to go down is to the last day.
Totally.
We'll see. We'll see what happens if City could also still slip up, and then they have to play each other obviously. So that's going to be so fun. I hate that it's on a Wednesday. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, that's really super lame.
I feel like they should just adjust the schedules to put that game on a Saturday.
They honestly should. The thing is, the Premier League makes schedule adjustments for TV concessions all the time anyway. Why not move that baby to primetime?
Yeah, that's the biggest game of the season by far, so why not push that right into the heart of primetime?
Yeah.
Move that schedule around.
Yeah, I assure you. I mean, I'm certain there's probably Premier League executives that are just as furious about it as you are.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a thing that they can't set precedent on by changing it now.
Yeah.
But you could see them really desperately wanting to move it.
Right. Well, I don't think either of us are very happy with this result.
No, that's
a draw.
Thing too, is the result was not satisfying.
A draw didn't do anything for either of us.
No.
But I think there's one team that has more cause to be upset than us this week, and that team is Brighton. Brighton and Hove Albion, who went away to Tottenham this week. And
who would have benefited from this result hugely.
Who would have benefited massively from this result. And we're just absolutely robbed by one of the most scandalous refereeing displays we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, straight up looked as if somebody had just blatantly paid these referees off to make these decisions.
We saw 2 Brighton goals, one of them an absolute beauty, chalked off in sketchy circumstances. Both for handballs, one in which the arm was clearly tucked against the torso of the player, the other in which the ball clearly struck the player above the sleeve line, which is the rule. And that's a technical way of saying it, clear as day, hit him on the shoulder, not on the arm.
Yes, not on the arm. It's not a handball.
Beautiful lofted through ball off the shoulder of Matoma, slotted home, and called back for no good reason. Both of those weren't even the most controversial calls of the game.
Nope.
Matoma later had his foot stepped on in the box, clear as day, and
obvious
was
penalty.
Denied a penalty for that.
Even the announcers were like, that's 100% a penalty.
Right. And since then, the Referees Association, which has had a lot of public appearances this week to make, they come out to offer a formal apology to Brighton, which is their 3rd time doing so this season.
Which is just like we joked about the conspiracy theory. Like, is there a conspiracy theory to try and keep Brighton out of Champions League places?
Right. After that game, if you follow our stories on Instagram, I tweeted during the game that this is one of the most scandalous refereeing performances we'd ever seen. After the game, I took a little dive into Reddit and saw Brighton and Hove fans claiming conspiracy theories that have tracked through the whole season.
Yeah.
And I kind of laughed at them. I was like, yeah, they're fired up after that one, rightfully so. And then to go to BBC and see that they've been offered 3 formal apologies by the Referees Association.
Yeah.
At a certain point, an apology is not enough.
Yeah.
They've lost at least 5 points to the Referees Association this year, which would put them 2 points off the Champions League places, I think, with a game in hand.
Yeah, it's shocking and seemingly almost blatant at this point.
That Tottenham game, it was blatant.
Yeah, that was absolutely some of the worst calls I've ever seen, especially in an era where there's video replay.
Yeah, when Matoma's foot got stepped on, play just carried on, and they said, yeah, VAR has checked that. It was a quick check, no penalty. It was like, wait,
they checked what? Because it was obvious.
So Howard Webb was brought on this year to try and clean up the implementation of video review.
Yeah.
And his approach has been to minimize its intervention and
basically just hand it back to the refs to do exactly what they've always done.
I think we talked just last episode about Bert's incapability of just using common sense.
Yep.
Right? You have video, you can look at it and decide whether or not it's worth using. You don't have to arbitrarily decide whether or not you want to intervene or, not hurt the referee's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's baffling that they have these systems in place. systems that have been in place in other places already, and still find a way to make it their own mess somehow.
I know, right?
It's like, it's almost like you can't fuck it up. You give it to them, and you're like, okay, you can't mess this up now. You have video technology to show you your mistakes so you can fix them. And they still just choose to ignore it because they don't want to hurt each other's egos.
Exactly. I think the answer is pretty obviously that it needs to be run by a separate entity than the Referees Association.
Yep. Yeah, because they clearly can't be trusted to govern themselves.
No, it's like cops watching cops, dude.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly the same problem.
Brian Simpson's always complaining about cops conducting internal investigations themselves into their own misconduct. And that's the same kind of situation we have here in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's like, wait, why are we trusting them to do this? To keep after themselves? When they've shown us over and over again that they will not discipline themselves for anything?
Right. This episode of Soccer Situations is brought to you by Littlefoot Coffee. I mean, what can I say about Littlefoot Coffee? They're not just friends of the pod, they're family of the pod, quite literally. Alex started Littlefoot years ago after more than a decade of roasting experience, roasting coffee for some of the hottest, most fashionable, and most importantly, tasty specialty coffee roasters in America. My favorite thing about it is that it's just really high-grade coffee without a drop of pretense. You're not going to find a bunch of weird, savory notes that the roaster is passing off as intentional. It's just really sweet, comforting flavors that everybody wants in their coffee. And now, for a limited time only, you can get 15% off at littlefootcoffee.com. Promo code SITUATIONS. Once again, you can get 15% off at littlefootcoffee.com using the promo code SITUATIONS. What turned out to be such a frustrating weekend, it started off so good too.
It did.
On Friday, Alex and I were so desperate for football that we actually went slumming in the championship for a couple of games. And, man, we saw a couple of good games. The first one we came across was Watford hosting Huddersfield. Huddersfield fighting for survival. Watford just kind of trotting mid-table.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny going down to watch the championship because usually we only remember these teams as we last knew them in the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly.
And they might have been gone for a few years and taken on an entirely new identity. And we still kind of remember them as we did. And then we get surprised.
You're like, oh, whoa.
That isn't necessarily the case in this particular game. Watford have been a yo-yo team as long as I've been watching the game. To see them sitting 11th in the championship sounds roundabout right.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
They have those seasons.
It could be a couple seasons from now we see them tear the championship apart and come right back up.
Right.
They seem to do that every once in a while.
Right. Huddersfield, the last time we saw them in the Prem was the first time I had seen them. They went down in 2019 with David Wagner at the helm. They finished that season with a shocking 16 points.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, is that historically the worst performance?
It could be. I don't remember what that Derby County team had. Didn't Derby County have 12?
They might have had 12, yeah. There was some pretty bad teams there.
But 16
is horrible.
Yeah, by comparison, right now the worst team in the league has 23 with 8 games to play.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
They've already beaten it.
16 is a tough look. But yeah, it was an incredible game. Back and forth. Huddersfield scoring or hitting what would be the winner in what was it in stoppage time or late in the 80s? I don't have the exact in the 82nd minute. But the highlight of the game really was once Watford went down, they sent their keeper down to try and score an equalizer. And their keeper, already on a yellow, attempted this insane martial arts kick that almost took a player's head off. The player limboed it, ducked under it, and but nevertheless, the keeper was sent off for a second yellow.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Seeing a keeper sent off at the other end, going up for a goal, is really, really funny.
Yeah, it was amazing. And it was such a keeper's, clearly a player who's not comfortable or not used to being there.
Right.
Just trying everything and this karate kicking somebody.
It was such an insane flying leap of a kick.
So funny.
And that that led to the game ending with Nasser Chowdhury donning the goalkeeper shirt. Didn't even bother to pick up the gloves because it was the final whistle was going any minute. Just really, really funny final scenes in that game.
Him just wearing the shirt and just standing there with his hands on his hips.
Right.
It's very funny.
But yeah, that was such a phenomenal, entertaining game.
Yeah, it was just all chaos, all action, good goals. Yeah, it was just like, wow, the championship, is it always this fun?
Right?
Are we just getting lucky, or is it always like this?
Yeah, after that, we moved on to Sunderland, Hull. Again, 2 Premier League stalwarts that we haven't seen in a few years.
Yeah, this seemed like a classic Premier League fixture.
Right? And this fucking game went and ended 4-4.
Yeah, I know. Insane game.
Absolutely insane game.
Halftime 2-2, finishes 4-4.
Insane, dude. Equalizer in the 99th minute, I think?
Yeah, it looks like, 90 plus 8.
Absolutely insane stuff. We saw what we thought was the winner in the 81st, and we were stunned by that. And then, Hull City go back and get a late stoppage time penalty to equalize.
Yeah, to equalize it.
And that was one of the most entertaining games I've seen all year.
Yeah, you couldn't tell which way it was going to go all the way to the end.
Right?
It was just like absolute chaos. Again, like this is what we're talking about with 2 teams where Hull City not so much, but like Sunderland, we're so used to seeing a Sunderland team that's like a sit in deep, defend, work hard kind of team.
Right.
And they're involved in this insane 4-4 match.
Yeah, for sure. That was not the Sunderland we saw go down.
But yeah, I feel like that was the peak of our weekend of football was the championship games.
It ended up being, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was. The rest of the weekend was just downhill.
Yeah, it's a good time of the season to take a look down in the championship if you don't ever do that, because you start to get a little sneak preview about who's going to be up in the Prem next year.
Yeah,
that's all you're interested in.
Kind of how they're going to play.
Yeah,
and how they're going to approach it.
Burnley have been officially promoted, so we've got one locked in, and that's a great example of a team changing its identity. Burnley were always a mess of a defensive kind of.
Just lump it up the old school football, lump it up to a big number 9, and play on the counterattack. And
Vincent Kompany's got them playing so well now that Pep Guardiola said it's his destiny to manage Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean that's big words,
right? So Burnley's back up next year. It looks like Sheffield's going to be a lock as well.
Yeah, Sheffield's right up at the top.
They're 9 points clear with a really well padded goal differential and a game in hand over those below. So it's looking like Burnley, Sheffield, and then it'll be one of, about 6 or 7 other teams.
Yeah, it gets pretty tight after that.
The chasing pack for the promotional playoff spots are Luton, Middlesbrough, Millwall, Blackburn, Norwich, Preston, down to Coventry, maybe even down to Sunderland.
Watford. They're on 55.
Sunderland are 6 points out of that tussle.
Yeah, so
with about 10 games to play.
Yeah, it's going to be tight.
Of those teams, the only ones I have not seen in the Premier League: Luton Town, Millwall, Preston, Coventry. No, Coventry.
I don't think we've seen Coventry either.
So we might get a Premier League newbie.
I hope so.
For
I
our
always
generation.
like when we get a new team.
Right?
It's always fun to see what the new teams do.
It's just going to be Middlesbrough.
Yeah, probably. Yep, or maybe Blackburn. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Blackburn come back up.
Totally. We were looking at those classic Blackburn kits a few weeks ago.
Yeah, there's some
maybe they'd bring
kits.
back some sick throwbacks if they got promoted.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
Right?
That's a Premier League throwback for sure, getting Blackburn back up.
Former Premier League and European champions, Blackburn? Or did they just win the league when they were the richest club in the league?
Yeah, it's true.
For those who don't know, Blackburn were once the super club in this league.
Yeah, it's weird to think about that. Even when you see the old videos and you see them winning things and dominating, you're like, Blackburn Rovers.
Kenny Dalglish at the helm?
Yeah.
Weird.
Such a weird time.
Weird all around.
How things have changed.
Okay. Do you think we've lost enough of our audience with all that championship talk?
Probably, yeah.
What else is on the agenda for this week? Me and Alex are straight up flabbergasted still trying to react from this game. I can see right now that it's not healthy for us to record a podcast right after a big game.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Tottenham stealing a game against Brighton.
Yes.
When
that game ended, I wanted to say, I literally said, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And I got up and walked away. And I meant it in that moment.
It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
I didn't mean the worst football game. I mean, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of justice. We've seen very little of that this week. Okay, what do you got? Sorry.
No, I mean we could talk about like United had two big results. They beat Brentford midweek, which is honestly I thought was not going to go their way. I was expecting a different result there. Ground out a 1-0 against Brentford,
right?
And a 2-0 against Everton.
Yeah, big results. Weird for me to pull for United versus Everton, but Everton's relegation is kind of the last glimpse of happiness I have coming into the tail end of this season. So I'm going to hang on to it with every salty fucking bit of salt in my body.
Yeah.
But United surging, or not surging, I should say, but like hanging on, just grinding out those results.
They're getting results, yeah.
Results.
They did potentially lose Rashford for potentially the end of the season.
You're right, yeah.
Huge loss.
Yeah, I can't believe I almost didn't mention that. They paid a really high price for those points.
Yeah. So yeah, two big results for them. Things are looking good for them right now, but we've seen how reliant they are on a few players at the moment. So we'll see if they can hang on. Tottenham are 3 points back.
Yes, and Newcastle being the other one in the mix there, we've discussed pretty thoroughly this week. They have been surging and looking fantastic.
Yeah, Newcastle's blip seems to be over.
A month ago we were looking at them to be the ones to fall out of the top four. It does not look that way anymore.
Nope, they've been absolutely on fire. So they had a Saturday too, and they beat West Ham 5-1 on Wednesday. And then
Brentford, right?
Again. Yeah, Poor Brentford
Tough
again.
week for Brentford.
Yeah.
2 1-goal losses.
Yep, and they beat Brentford 2-1. So huge, two huge results to keep them firmly in the mix up there.
I should be happy considering Brentford are only 1 point behind us in the table.
That's true, right?
I just can't, though. I love them bees.
Yeah, they're good. They're fun to watch.
It's funny, actually, how I've realized how defensive I've gotten of them and Brighton. The Brighton injustice this week, God, that riled me up. I don't think I've gotten that mad outside of an unjust Liverpool result in a long, long time.
Yeah, that was an infuriating one. The Brighton team is they're so hard not to love.
This club just deserves it, man.
Yeah.
This club is doing everything right, and to see infrastructure let them down, and to see society let them down it's a really frustrating way to see them stumble when they could be very much in the fight for that Champions League spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you flip those points the other way, you look at where they're at. They're at 49 points suddenly. Tottenham are on 50 still.
Yeah.
Only a point off Tottenham.
Yeah.
Obviously it's still a long shot for them to get there, but if you, like you said, you give them those 5 points that they were stolen, all of a sudden they're on 51, 5 points off United.
Right.
8 games to go. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we'll have to dig in with a Brighton fan and get other incidents. I'm sure they can come up with a half a dozen other incidents at least. We can really expand on this conspiracy.
Yeah.
If we know any Brighton fans out there, Jules Breach, if you're listening.
Yeah, hit us up. Let us know. We'd love to talk to Brighton.
It's too bad that Jules works for Sky Sports because she's going to have to be diplomatic about this thing. She's probably steaming about it.
Furious right now.
Right?
Another fun result, too, is old Frankie Lampard.
Yeah.
Getting beat by a whirly hit and a 1-0 loss to Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, that's a tough return for Frank.
Yep. Yeah. You would hope, you hope for I'm sure as Chelsea fans, you hope for the glorious return of Frank and that team to all of a sudden click. Nope. Did not happen. Didn't
work out that way. Nice of them to give Wolves some points. Wolves also being in the relegation zone there.
Yeah.
It's funny
stay up.
How quickly that Lampard situation has developed, The midweek Chelsea game, we saw him at Stamford Bridge at Chelsea-Liverpool.
Yeah.
And people were making jokes about him coming back to manage Chelsea.
Yep.
And now, just a few days later, he was in the dugout.
He was out there. We were all shocked by that decision.
Yeah. I know we already talked about it on the mini episode, so we don't have to dwell too much. But that was a quick and surprising little subplot at the end of the season.
Yeah, very funny one for neutrals.
Right?
Very funny one. We'll see how it goes. I don't think so far, not off to a good start. Villa keep cruising too. Villa are, under Emery, flying up the table.
How like Unai Emery is it for his team to be just quietly doing well and nobody really talking about it?
Yeah, yeah. They had a midweek weekend, and they got another 6 points for them. Which where are they at now? They're creeping
Sixth.
up. 6th place, 47 points.
They're sitting in that Europa spot.
Yeah.
Teams behind them do have a couple games in hand, but I mean,
how things started for Villa this season?
Unai took them over in relegation, like deep in relegation.
Yeah, and they absolutely have to be one of the form teams in the entire league right now.
Right? Why does that man get no respect? He's so good.
I know, it's insane. And he's such like a likable, like quiet guy. He doesn't do anything to like piss people off ever.
No.
It's unbelievable the hatred he gets.
Of the managers you'd want to vibe and smoke a joint with in the league, he's probably like near the top.
Yeah, he seems like such a chill guy. And he's clearly like a tactical genius.
Yeah.
He's super smart.
Right.
He always knows how to set up a team to win games. Yeah, it's good. I particularly like don't love Villa as a club, but I'm really happy for Emery.
Same.
I don't have any real feelings about Villa.
Yeah,
honestly.
same. I've always felt
weirdly
neutral about Villa too. Not a fan of the claret and blue.
I think that's just probably what it is.
As we've said. Yeah, don't like the color scheme. Don't really care that Tom Hanks is a big fan.
Yeah, but good for Villa. I'm happy for Emery to see them. I mean, they are, let's see, win, draw, win, win, win. So they've been flying. What if they snuck in there, got into the Champions League?
Does Arsenal play them before the end of the season?
Oh, God, I hope not. I actually didn't even think about that.
What if Unai stops the
Speaking of disrespecting them, like I was like not even consider. I wouldn't even consider them as one of our like the fears.
You don't worry.
That's good, thank God. No, I think it's funny. We do have Chelsea in there, which I probably shouldn't laugh at Chelsea because they still have a chance to ruin our season.
No, you can laugh at Chelsea, dude. Chelsea's
but
terrible.
It seems like we're going to be able to keep laughing at them.
Yeah, I mean, and
it doesn't. I don't think they hired the right man to sort it out. So.
I was going to say, Alex, we always have the silver lining. If Super Frank starts doing great and they surge up the table, then we could have that Ole situation on our hands, and we still win.
That is true. That'd be a win-win for everybody. I think we also got to give a shout-out to old Roy Hodgson.
Oh, good call.
Old Roy, poor Leeds. Got a thrashing from Roy Hodgson.
Hodgson had the glasses out, doing his best Wenger impression.
Yeah, he's wearing a red tie with the glasses on.
Yeah, and his team looked like a Wenger team.
It did. They ripped. I mean, the first half was a pretty even match.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what he did in that halftime team talk, but they ripped Leeds to pieces in the second half.
It's true.
Obviously, I think a lot of people are still super sad to see Patrick out of the job there.
Right.
And obviously now you can see some of the talent on that team. They're clearly good enough to stay up and be a fun, like a competitive team in the league.
Right. This storyline in this situation, though, we have to remember favors Hodgson so dramatically.
Oh, of course.
We need to look back at that list of fixtures prior to Patrick's sacking.
Yep.
And the list of fixtures that Hodgson had ahead of him when he took over. It's night and day, the
literally
difference
all
in quality.
Probably winnable games under Vieira as well.
So everyone, especially, Brits love to really kind of celebrate their dinosaurs and really applaud the great dignitaries of their games.
Yep.
And, I don't want to be disrespectful because they did play great today, and it was fun to see Hodgson enjoying it.
Yeah.
But you can pretty easily imagine Patrick Vieira having the same run of results.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, because I think the way the team was set up was not very different than what Patrick was doing. Yeah, I think it was just unlucky and all about timing.
Yeah, agree.
We'll see. It looks like Palace are staying up, though.
Strangely, 6 points out of relegation this season seems like it's going to be enough.
Yeah.
So tight down there still.
Going to be tight all the way. That's why we can't say for sure if anybody's staying or going. But
right. Only 6 points clear, but they still have 6 teams between them in relegation still.
That is crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I still would not place a bet on anyone going down except, I don't even want to say Southampton because Southampton on their day have put in some amazing performances.
Yeah.
And you only need 2 wins to move out of it, you know?
Yeah, 2 wins makes it look completely different all of a sudden.
So it's really impossible to call.
Yeah. And Leicester, we know the talent, like Leicester has enough talent on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So they could easily put together a couple of results and pull themselves out of there. Yeah, it's going to be fun. The season just keeps being entertaining.
We haven't done any work on it yet, but we've talked about doing a little special segment on fire sale players from any of these teams going down, because all of these relegation candidates have a lot of talent throughout the squad.
It's true.
So
it's true.
when we get a solid looking final three, actually before we do, we should do that segment and talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe next week we'll bring that to y'all. We'll talk about who do you want to snatch from any team from or between Wolves and Southampton or Palace and Southampton.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of players on it. That's a lot of teams.
Wolves, West Ham, Bournemouth, Leeds, Everton, Forest, Leicester, Southampton. There's at least 2 players, I feel like, in all those teams that you're going to want to snatch.
Yeah, you could definitely build a pretty solid team out of those teams potentially going down. Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. Yeah, that'd be a fun little game. It'd be kind of hard to choose for some of them.
Right. Now let's call it.
All right.
Really, I want to call it because I need enough time to take a shower before work.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. That was an interesting episode.
A whirlwind episode a bit, but
yeah.
First recording directly after a match and a extremely intense match, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of recording with some anger in our hearts.
Yeah, just like a weird energy. But
do you feel it?
Do you guys feel the energy on that side?
Does this feel like a different podcast? Is this like the podcast is over now?
It's like a serious. Yeah.
This is like when Karen and Georgia were getting catty with each other in the early days of My Favorite Murder, and I was like, I don't think they're gonna make it.
Yeah.
I don't think these ladies are gonna make it.
What will happen? You have to stay tuned, though.
Right.
But stay tuned to find what happens next.
Cool. Yeah. So we will see you on Thursday for another mini episode.
For a mini-sode.
Thanks, y'all, and have a good week.
Great week.
Bye.
Soccer situation. Soccer situation.